Among the beloved daughters of Prophet Muhammad, the story of Kulthum often remains quietly tucked behind the more widely known narratives. Yet, her life was filled with silent strength, resilience, and deep sorrow. Born into the most noble household in Makkah, Kulthum witnessed the rising tide of Islam, the pain of persecution, the loss of loved ones, and the heavy trials that came with being part of the Prophet's Muhammad family. Her journey reflects the heartbreak endured by early Muslims, especially the women of the Prophet's house, who bore immense burdens with grace and patience. This is the touching and tragic story of Kulthum, a story of sacrifice, suffering, and silent devotion in the path of Allah. The tragic story of Hazrat Kulthum, daughter of Prophet Muhammad. The blessed household of Prophet Muhammad was a beacon of light, truth, and sacrifice. While the names of his beloved daughters, Hazrat Fatima, Hazrat Zainab, Hazrat Ruqayyah, and Hazrat Kulthum are etched into Islamic history, the story of Kulthum often goes untold. Her life was a quiet tragedy, lived in the background of immense trials, family suffering, and the ever-present test of faith. Despite this, Hazrat Kulthum remained steadfast, dignified, and deeply loyal to her father, the Messenger of Allah. This is her story. Early life in the house of prophethood. Kulthum bint Muhammad was born in Makkah several years before her father received revelation. Her mother was Khadijah bint Khuwaylid, the first believer and supporter of the Prophet Muhammad. Raised in the noble household of Banu Hashim, Hazrat Kulthum grew up surrounded by love, care, and the wisdom of two of the most noble personalities, her mother Hazrat Khadijah and her father, the Prophet Muhammad. Like her sisters, she was taught values of honesty, kindness, and service to others. However, her peaceful childhood would not last long. When Prophet Muhammad received the first revelation at the age of 40, their entire world changed. Life during persecution. As Islam began to spread in Makkah, the Quraysh turned hostile. Being a daughter of Muhammad was not a privilege in their eyes, it became a reason for hatred. Hazrat Kulthum and her sisters suffered emotional abuse, social boycott, and isolation. The family endured the harsh boycott in the valley of Abu Talib, where they went without food, supplies, or any support from the rest of Makkah. These years were formative for Hazrat Kulthum. She witnessed the immense pain of her parents, the death of her mother Hazrat Khadijah, and the emotional toll it took on her father. The year her mother passed away became known as the Year of Sorrow. Hazrat Kulthum was still young but had to carry the emotional weight of supporting her father while dealing with her own heartbreak. Marriage to Utaiba and heartbreaking divorce. Before the rise of Islam, Bibi Kulthum and her sister Ruqayyah were married to the sons of Abu Lahab, Utbah and Utaiba. However, once the Prophet Muhammad began preaching Islam, Abu Lahab and his wife Jamil became fierce enemies of the message. In a show of hatred, they forced their sons to divorce the daughters of the Prophet Muhammad. Bibi Kulthum was divorced before her marriage could be consummated. This act of deliberate humiliation wounded her deeply. It wasn't just a personal rejection, it was an attack on the family of the Prophet Muhammad. The pain of being rejected not for any fault of her own, but because of her father's mission, was a heavy burden to carry. Yet, Bibi Kulthum remained patient. She did not return hatred for hatred. She endured the divorce with dignity, refusing to let bitterness enter her heart. Migration and more sorrow. As the hostility in Makkah intensified, the Prophet Muhammad eventually migrated to Medina, and his family followed him. Kulthum, now older and more mature, continued to live with her father and assist him in his daily affairs. She became one of his closest supporters, especially after the death of her sister Ruqayyah, who had been married to Uthman ibn Affan and passed away around the time of the Battle of Badr. Marriage to Uthman ibn Affan, R.A. After Ruqayyah's, R.A. death, the Prophet Muhammad gave his daughter Kulthum in marriage to Bibi Uthman ibn Affan, one of the most noble and pious companions. This marriage was a blessed one. Bibi Uthman was known for his generosity, modesty, and deep love for the Prophet Muhammad. The Prophet himself honored this union so much that he called Uthman, R.A. Dhul-Nurayn, the possessor of two lights, because he married two of the Prophet's daughters in succession. Their marriage was filled with mutual respect and love. However, despite their happiness, Kulthum, R.A., and Uthman, R.A., were not blessed with children. This was another silent sorrow for her, as motherhood was deeply cherished in Arab society. Her final days and death. Tragedy struck again just a few years into her marriage. Bibi Umm Kulthum fell ill and eventually passed away in 9AH 630 C. During the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad. Her death broke the Prophet's heart. He personally led her funeral prayer and buried her in Jannat al-Baqi, the sacred graveyard in Medina. The Prophet Muhammad was seen grieving for his daughter, his tears falling as he watched yet another piece of his heart return to Allah. He had now lost 3 of his daughters during his lifetime, Bibi Zainab, Bibi Ruqayyah and Bibi Umm Kulthum. Only Fatima remained, and even she would pass away just 6 months after him. Legacy of silent strength. Umm Kulthum is rarely spoken of compared to other women of the Prophet's household, but her life is a powerful reminder of endurance. She did not deliver grand speeches, lead armies, or become a mother of future leaders. But she carried her trials with quiet faith and unwavering dignity. Her strength was not in public visibility but in private perseverance. Her story teaches us that not all heroes are known by name or fame, some live and die quietly, but with a heart deeply beloved by Allah. Lessons from her life. Faith in trials. Umm Kulthum was tested through divorce, rejection, the loss of her mother and sisters, and infertility. Yet she never lost hope in Allah or turned bitter. She teaches us the power of s.a.w, patience, in the face of hardship. Respect for family ties. Her love and respect for her father were unshakable. Even when the world turned against the Prophet Muhammad, she stood by him, proving the strength of family in times of adversity. The value of inner strength. Not every believer will be known publicly. Sometimes, the ones who are closest to Allah are those who suffer silently and endure with grace. The pain of being close to the truth, being in the Prophet's family, did not protect Umm Kulthum from hardship. In fact, it brought her greater trials. But her life is proof that closeness to Allah is not about ease, it is about how you carry your tests. The life of Umm Kulthum is a story of quiet suffering, noble sacrifice, and deep faith. While history may not spotlight her the way it does others, her legacy remains in the heart of every believer who has ever felt pain, loss, or rejection and still held on to faith. She was not just the daughter of a prophet. She was a reflection of his teachings, a symbol of steadfastness, and a silent warrior in the struggle of Islam. May Allah be pleased with her, grant her the highest station in Jannah, and allow us to walk in her footsteps of patience, faith, and dignity.